Hello and welcome to Village Theater Spotlight. My name is Jerry Dixon. I'm the artistic director at Village Theater. Yes, that's who I am. And we are sharing stories and creating connections. Today's guest and theme, Rodney Hicks, We Tell the Story, Part 1. Now, I needed to make this two parts because I find that this kind of expanded creativity in the most beautiful way is just as contagious as this darn virus that we're battling. So we're going to have part 1 tonight, and then next week we'll have part 2, We Tell the Story. So without further ado, may I please welcome to the spotlight screen my friend Rodney Hicks.
Hey, Jerry.
Hi, Rodney. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you.
It would be great to see you in Colorado or New York right now in person, but we've got this, and this is what we're going to go with, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. And I have so much to talk to you about, Rodney, so I'm going to get started.
Yeah.
I want you to kick us off by sharing your hyphens. So I'm going to say Rodney Hicks, Broadway star, writer, friend, and you can share some other labels if you'd like.
Peace, practitioner, love, compassion,
All right.
and breath. Yeah. And being there for our fellow people.
Okay, I'm doing that right now. I'm doing it with you. You know, Rodney, of course you know this because it's our story. We met a while back in a very long titled and quite hyphenated contemporary opera called I Was Looking at the Ceiling and Then I Saw the Sky, Earthquake Romance.
Yes.
Okay, that is a lot to put
Yes.
on a billboard, but that's where we met. Now, most of it for me is a blur. It's like I remember tads of it, but not really. Do you have vivid memories of our times?
You know, I just remember looking up to all of you. That will always stay there for me. I was 21 years old, and I just was like, where am I? And you all embraced me with so much love and kindness and care. And I mean, because, I was 21 and chicken without its head, really, but focused and ready to go when I needed to be. And, I had longed to be around people like all of you in the cast. And, at that time, I was engaged to a woman, and it was just very much, who am I anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually when we started, I didn't know a lot of that kind of rolled out as a friendship does.
It did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what I remember? I remember just sort of looking to the sides of me because it was, to this date, it was the hardest score I ever learned musically. And I don't think I ever learned it. I think it was a consensus that we never learned it correctly.
No, and I think Peter Sellars was okay with that.
As long as we got the acting beats right, he was
Yes,
fine.
yes.
It was a John Adams opera. It's a terribly difficult thing to
Jordan
learn.
lyrics. Yeah, remember they had, I remember distinctly, they had monitors on the ceiling, everywhere.
In the floor.
That's how intense the music was.
Yeah, because I remember this thing that is very different. It's exactly the opposite. When something goes awry, the orchestra waits for the singer to get back on.
Not this show.
We were actually told by the conductor, stop singing. And then they would point you back in. It was so bizarre. Anyway.
I enjoyed watching it. I stood by for you and Mike. And I remember seeing the show every single performance and just being in awe and learning so much. And I am so proud that I had the opportunity to be your standby and to really learn and to sit there going to the theater. I was so excited to go to that theater every night to watch y'all. And I remember, I think someone had said, why are you at the theater every single night? You can just check in and guys said, are you kidding me? I want to watch this. I want to learn.
Yeah. And
Oh,
Rodney, there's a special thing that happens when you're way across the world with only your cast members that you know.
yes.
There's a special bond that happens when you're so out of your comfort
Very
zone, right?
much so. Yes, very
Yeah.
much so. We were in Paris in Germany.
Hmm.
It was 1995. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Paris in Germany. And I remember because if you remember correctly, I never really ate anything there except for McDonald's. Do
That's
you
right.
remember that? Because I
Yes.
was afraid to eat the food.
And now you're such a foodie.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that journey.
There's a balance. There's
Yeah.
definitely a balance.
Yeah.
There's a cheeseburger in my life every
Yeah.
now and
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
But then I was eating. I kid you not, I had McDonald's pretty much every night except for the baguettes. That I can understand.
Those baguettes.
And my skin was just broken out because of, the word
Well,
hygiene.
between the baguettes and doing the laundry that took about 3 hours to
3 hours.
do one load of
Oh,
laundry.
I remember that.
Baguettes and chocolate
But
were
those
our
apartments were
friends.
fierce.
Beautiful apartments.
Those apartments were just not, especially in Hamburg.
Mhm.
Yeah, I will never forget that apartment.
Oh yes, we had those very modern IKEA apartments where you put the card in and the lights came on and all the power
Yes.
came on.
Yes.
See, you remember a lot more than I do. Like I told you, it's a blur. But here's what's not a blur. I
Okay.
want to just touch on some of your experiences at Village Theater because
Mm,
you created two indelible and vivid performances for our
thank you.
audiences, and I just I saw you do Jim and Big River, and like, wow,
Mm.
wow.
I actually worked out for that show.
Uh-huh.
I laugh because working out was never a priority for me until it became a necessity for maintaining well-being and knowing that exercise is all part of it. So having the opportunity to portray Jim in Big River with this beautiful cast, kind, giving, caring, it was a dream come true because I had wanted to do Big River since I was a sophomore in college.
Mm.
And I did do Big River actually in college and I was a sophomore, but I wanted to do it professionally.
Yes.
When I was a sophomore in college, I was this skinny mini thing and Huck was bigger than me. He was like towering over me. And, I had a late growth spurt too. So,
Yeah.
but I begged them. I remember because they wanted to hire an equity guest artist for Jim. And I said, I can play Jim. I know I can. And I was in college. So my version of Jim at that time was listening to Ron Richardson, honey.
Oh yeah.
And I remember going up to the music department and just, do you guys have the CD to Big River? Young Suk Kim was our music teacher. And he said, oh yeah. He goes, oh yeah. And I listened to him. I think I copied everything he did when I was in college.
Oh yeah. That's what we do, right? When we start out.
Yes.
We mimic first. Yeah.
Actually, I have to. You don't know this, but you're going to know it now. 5 guys named Mo.
Hmm.
When I moved to New York in 1995 in January, because I was there in the fall of '94, but then I went home, and I came back in '95, and I listened to you and everyone on that CD. I think about every day, and I just said, "Oh my God, I want to sound like this man," and like, like every single day. And I dared not tell you that when we worked together, literally later that year.
Wow. Rodney, I had mine. Mine was Clifton Davis from in Two Gentlemen.
Two Gentlemen of Verona. Yes, honey.
and Hal Linden's version of Anything Goes.
Oh,
I just studied all that phrasing because I didn't know how to do that. And
Oh.
but Ronnie, I'm telling you,
Mm.
if Jim and Big River, your performance of that at Village Theater was indelible to me. I can't imagine how it was for you to do it every night. It was just really, really wonderful and just so full of that joy that comes with being an experienced actor. Because when you're young, you mostly want to brood. You know, you want to go to that angsty place.
Forward.
And you had just all that beautiful joy and all the other deep stuff, and then of course I got a chance to work with you on a beta production. Your character of Charles in Hart Island, an extremely
I love that role. I love that
challenging new
show.
musical,
Yes.
and you just took it and ran with it.
Oh,
And what a great opportunity for writers to see their work come to life through an instrument. Rodney Hicks, it was just
oh,
really great.
bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because that was my first musical back after being diagnosed with spasmodic dysphonia. And I had gotten my,
And that's a big phrase, and we're going to get back to it later. But I
oh,
want you to
yes,
keep going.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. And I had gotten my voice back in 2018, March
Hmm.
12th, the day of my father's passing. And I woke up and I could speak. And then on my birthday of 2018, I could sing. I caught like 5 people going, oh my God, just crying.
Yes.
But this was my first musical back. So I was low key, like terrified, and I think I journaled it on Facebook, actually.
Hmm.
I wanted to share my experiences and also playing someone who he was a convict, not even
Hmm.
an ex-con. He was
Yeah.
a convict. And it was, I had been 5 years into my meditation practice and to spirituality. So I thank God for that practice and for that to learn something that I could do every single day as a routine to keep me grounded in the present moment and not get lost in the energy of this character and
Mm.
all that he had to go through to also find the tenderness. So with that, every single day I walked in and I didn't say anything to anyone, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know if these notes are going to come out.
Mm.
But, one of our producers on Come From Away had said to me, he said, when I was in the height of just what's going on here, he just, oh, it was so beautiful. Kenny, he had said, just open your mouth and it will come out.
Mm. Hmm.
And I remember that day and I just almost cried, Kenny, I'll
Yeah.
have it. And I took that and kept it with me. And I would keep it with me to the day I die to go, wow, okay. So that is the mantra that kept me going every single day. And when we did the video for It Ain't Lost to Me, I was low key sweating on the inside, but outside,
Mm.
I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, let's do it.
It's Ronnie, it's such a valuable lesson in that we need so many tools. We need inspiration. We need a Kenny to come up and say something wise to us.
Yeah.
We need practices of meditation and self-care to
And we
do
need
what
to
we
trust
do.
ourselves and
A
know that
lot
we
of
are
trust.
so much stronger than we could ever give ourselves credit for. And that is
Hmm.
what I took away from that experience, to play someone so hard and all the lines and all of the rap that I had to learn, but knowing that I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
Every last person in that ensemble, we lifted each other up every single day, and you brought that into the room as our director. And it was really beautiful in that way. And and it's interesting because I allowed myself to let go, to really say, I'm gonna have my little time that I know I need to have before the show, but I'm
Mhm.
gonna go in that dressing room and I'm gonna embrace these men, these women, and because we're all here together doing the same thing.
Mhm.
And we created such a family in like what, 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, that bond, it just
And how we
quickens.
put that show up with like not reading from scripts, that was a lot to learn.
It was a
But we
lot to
took a
learn.
leap together.
Yeah. And to watch you all in every corner of the theater when you were not engaged directly on stage, to be taking care of each other and running lines with each other,
Yeah.
and just taking care of each other. That's one of those special Rubicons that I love watching
Yes.
an acting company cross. It's like, oh, they become that family that we talk about. Now, you mentioned Come From Away, so
Yes.
I'm gonna
Speaking of
just
taking
back.
care of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to backtrack though. I want
Please.
to just a little bit. I want to start at the fact that we had just arrived back in New York from I was looking at the Ceiling European tour, and you got into a show that was
What's it called?
Rent. And
I was so lucky.
Ken, I think I've seen almost everything you've ever done on stage.
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
So you were, tell us that. Tell us how
Yes,
that came
yes,
about. So you
absolutely.
get back. Had you done any of the workshops before?
No, but you know what's funny, and I'll get back to that, is in 1994 when they did the first studio production of Rent in the fall of 94, I was doing Bring in the Morning, a wake-up call, which was about young people in the, the projects. And it was kind of like, and then you flash forward a year later, I remember distinctly, I got a call, a fax, rather. Remember fax?
Oh, fax.
And
what is that?
Yeah, exactly. I got a call from Telsey Casting, and they were like, "We'd love for you to come in." I saw the breakdown, and I'm thinking it all said like late 20s, early 30s was the original breakdown, and I'm like 21, and I'm thinking, "Oh gosh." Oh, well, I think they must be wrong. Because at that time, I was just kind of like, trying to make everyone else's mind up for them, I guess. But
I don't know what you mean by that, but it sounds really cool and dangerous.
And dangerous. So, but I got over myself and said, I'm going to go in. But it's interesting because at that time, I was living in a rooming house. I was living somewhere just not really living anywhere, right? And
that's like a New York life, though.
That's New York, early New York life, right? And I remember because I was scared, actually, because I just finished this show with all of you, and I wanted to do Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat because I was getting married, and as I remember, I looked in my journal, and I was writing to my ex-fiance at the time, Wansina Bolger, and I had said, honey, you know what? I'm going to go back home, and we're going to be in the church, and we're just, it was all I said. I don't know if I want to do this as a career, and just talking myself out of everything. Mm-hmm. And because in my mind, I'm thinking this is hard,
yes.
And that whole year was a lot. And so then my manager at the time, she had said, what are you talking about, ugly? Go in. And so I went in, and I painted a goatee because I couldn't grow facial hair at the time.
Oh, no. Okay. You've been keeping secrets from me. I never knew this
and I've
about
shared
you.
this story. Like, I painted on with a mascara pen a goatee, and it sweated off during the audition.
Of course it did.
Because me, I was doing backflips and like all of that, and just doing the most. And after it, I had this big cardigan Gap red sweater on. It was like very Christmassy. And I remember taking it off because Tim Wiles said, "Oh, do you have any dancing?" And I'm like, "Yes." And so he started playing a beat, and actually I wasn't. Yes, I was like, "Yes," because I was trying to be who I thought everyone wanted me to be.
Grown up with a goatee.
Yes, and straight. Auditioning for Rent.
The cardigan should tell it all.
I just was so like, which way is up? So then I took off the goatee, forgetting that I had this painted on. I'm now doing, because I was really into breakdancing at that time. So I'm doing windmills and like the spin and do a backflip and split. And I finished everything, the shenanigans, the 3-act play. And it was, Bernie said, "Great, Rodney. Can you go into the bathroom before you go home?" And I said, "Oh, okay." And I went in the bathroom, sure enough, just smeared. And 2 hours later, I got the call, I got the job.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I think, honestly, in looking back, they said he you
went for it.
He showed that he is a little cray-cray, and he'll work it out,
That is so awesome. But Rent was populated with those types of New Yorkers, the type that you brought into the play, the audition.
Just kind of offbeat and like living on your own drum. And I didn't know that I was doing that. And I remember first day rehearsal, we all learned Seasons of Love and we sang that. And my God, just hearing everyone like together, I think I cried inside because in every day I thought we're going to Broadway because I was 21, and just kind of, and everyone's like,
Right, because it started at New York Theater Workshop,
Theater
correct?
Workshop, yes.
Off Broadway, yeah.
Yes, and I just learned so much about it was the beginnings of learning, of carving that whole thing, of who are you? It was the very beginning of that.
You know what I find fascinating about that story, Rodney, is that you were trying so desperately to hide, and yet they saw you.
Honey, every single day. I mean, it was Jesse Martin, the diva character with the red. It was Jesse Martin, because I'm like, Michael said, hey, why don't you do ew, because it was in the thing. And I didn't know what that meant. And I'm just like, ew, because I was trying to find who this person was in this one line. And I remember we were still in the studio. And then Jesse said, Rodney, you should just I think he almost said, be yourself. Actually.
Oh, okay.
And there was a lot of little beautiful nuggets, right? That they all, and because they were trying to go, here's the closet, come on, but they were so respectful and so, because I was everybody's little brother, and to this day still, it was very much, Jesse gave me the courage because here's the thing, I was in a show that growing up, I mean, think about it. I grew up at a time in the 80s and 90s where all you saw were people dying from AIDS. Yes. And all you saw was that being gay wasn't a good thing, and so that repressed the crap out of me for so many years because you then have to unlearn everything, and really reprogram yourself. And that actually took me, I think, about 20 years. That took me longer than many, many, many people. But I'm gonna tell you something. Jesse said to me, he said, he should be like just so like ill, and I was like, and then I'm good at mimicking, so then I did it, and everyone, we didn't tell anyone. He said, just don't tell anybody, just do it. We got to the number, we're doing all this, and then I did it, and the music stopped. Everyone just started cracking up. And I'm thinking that was the moment where I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was gay.
Look at that little victory into a bigger thing.
Even though, I came out 3 times in my life.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay.
The closet door's not locked. It's just fastened a little bit. It's just, you got to wiggle the knob a couple of times.
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay. So now, Rodney, you certainly don't stray away from challenging material, and talk to us a little bit about the Scottsboro Boys.
Yes, I loved the Scottsboro Boys. I loved working with all of those men and women. And it was, Susan Stroman, from the first day of rehearsal, she created a safe space for us all. I mean, she said, I will never be able to tell you how to be Black or what it means to be Black. And we all really, I believe we all were part of that creative team, because it wasn't, oh, you move here, you went, no, we all organically came into that, and the love. Oh my gosh, the love. And we're on our 10-year anniversary right now. And it's interesting because I played Clarence Norris, and that was amazing. But what scared me was all the dancing. I was not prepared for all, and I had to dance on a lot of shows actually, but not like this, not where like you actually had to know the terminology of what you were doing and watch your feet. And I'll make this quick. It was the first day we saw what the opening was going to be on Eric and Jeff Whiting and Eric Santagaga were our associates, choreographer and associate director. And so Jeff was up on the chair doing this and the gestures, and Eric was on the floor doing the double pirouette holding a tambourine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, and honestly, I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to be on the floor. That wasn't in my dance call. Nothing like that. Nothing. I'm going to do gestures. They called out our names. And I think I was one of the last people to be called. So it was like being called for a basketball game that you were not ready for. And I had the gall. I went up to Stro. And I said, and Stro, she just carries it, honey. She's just, and I said, really soft. It was a very soft voice. I said, excuse me, Stro. She goes, yes, honey. I said, I think you got that wrong. I think I'm supposed to be on the chairs and not on the floor. She didn't lose a beat. She just stood there and she smiled and she said, oh, you'll do it. That was it. And I was I literally was like, and I turned and walked away. And I did not take any breaks for the most part. None of us did. These men, every break I said, hey, can we go over to Yes. And we had our little last 5 minutes to do our little water or 2 minutes, whatever. We owned that Atlantic Theater Company rehearsal hall, literally the hallways. It was us going over those dances, precision. And I don't think I've ever sweated that much in a rehearsal. I mean, it was the most beautifully liberating process in terms of getting out of your own way and not putting up obstacles that are not there.
That is amazing, Ronnie. For any of us to be the fly on the wall with that, one of the things I was thinking about your sort of the timeline and trajectory of your career is that Scottsboro Boys is very human powered, and then so is Come From Away.
Yes,
it's really about the human beings. The background information is supportive, but it's so not in the way. And so you're you call it liberating, but you're also very exposed in both of those productions.
Yes, you are.
So talk to us.
You only have yourself,
right? And your company, and you look around.
And the company,
this
of
is
course.
it. We
yes.
don't. I mean,
That
look spectacular. We love spectacular productions. We love that stuff. I know that you and I both love that pageantry and all that wizardry.
Yeah.
But there's something about that human-powered production. So talk to us about Come From the Way, which is kind of the epitome of that human-powered thing.
Oh, yes. There's many layers to it, right? When you talk about compassion, when you talk about kindness, when you talk about caring and love, and that process, Christopher Ashley, he led
the director,
our director, our Tony-winning director for that show. He led that rehearsal, man, with so much grace is the only word I can put. And he watches, you know what I mean? And he gives you a note when you know you need that note. And he doesn't waste his words. What I'm just in awe, and he'll know how to just boom. And you're like, oh, okay. But he gives the artist power in the room of collaboration and that feeling that we're all in this together. And, I just, every single day it was, what are we going to do today? Playing all of these characters but more importantly, getting to know the rhythm and energy of my fellow castmates, on stage, because it's not just, you up there. It's not just, I have to memorize. You have to, that show, every show, but really Scottsboro, Rent, Scottsboro, and Come From Away. You cannot do what you're doing without the help of the other person. It was always a passing of the hat. And, I lived for doing that show 8 times a week. Even when I came in and could barely speak, that was getting me through my days when we were on Broadway. And honestly, that was the most courageous and confident I had ever felt in New York City. And those 5 months of internal struggle and suffering, I walked in there with gratitude every single day. And it was Ian Eisendrath who said to me, because I was talking about my voice, and I'm like, oh man. And he said, you know what? What would happen if you don't bring it up and you just come in and just be your full self? Baby, I just took a breath and I said, we were on the piers because we had lived in in Long Island City, and my apartment was kind of near theirs, his family's, and we, had a beautiful morning walk, and I was like, yeah, because that's what I've been doing. And it's like, don't get caught up in the sorrow of whatever that moment is. And I remember walking in there, not knowing if I was going to have a job the next day, because, it's Broadway and it's a lot of money, but I will every single day. I stay in gratitude because these people, they held my hand, not like literally and metaphorically, of really, I was seen and I was taken care of and provided for in a way that I think I would have just been a mess had it not been that. And, it was difficult to do the show because I was having panic attacks every night and not having to say anything about it. And I went out to see the audience every single night, even though all I wanted to do was go home. But what I did learn was more breath and keeping contact with the people who came to see the show, meaning keeping eye contact with them, because the show moved them beyond what I had actually seen outside of Rent, and again, Scottsboro Boys, it was the people were viscerally affected. But this particular show, we all knew where we were at 9/11. And that kept me going, to feel what they were feeling in that moment of just a handshake or an eye contact. I knew, oh, this is much bigger than you, honey. As long as you can sing a note, you will do this show. So long as you can open your mouth and whatever. I mean, there were days where I sounded like Mike Tyson, and there were days where I sounded like Tracy Morgan. And I mean, I didn't know what was going to come out or how it was going to come out. But like Kenny said, just open your mouth and speak, man.
Yeah. So I can't even imagine what it's like to step out on stage and not know if the speaking was going to come out, let alone the singing. And that must have been quite an inflection point for you, my friend. And I know that it moved you to do a lot of different a different type of searching and some different actions. And so
it wound up being a blessing, Jerry. It was a blessing.
How do you go from curse to blessing? How do you go from like woe is me to I'm going to do something? I love the theater. I'm not going to let it go just because I can't do the two things that I'm usually doing.
Yeah. Well, I have to be perfectly honest, and it is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult. You have to. When I left the show, I came in and I was already diagnosed 3 times.
And can you just to go back to explain the diagnosis again?
Yes,
so we can
spasmodic
understand.
dysphonia. It affects the brain's connectivity to the vocal cords. And so there's nothing wrong with your vocal cords. It's the brain is missing a step in order to communicate. So basically, you sound like you're swallowing everything, or that someone's choking you, that you're strained. And it was, I remember I had to practice. Like I would do my Instagram posts and I had to practice like to form the words because I needed to keep that going. And anytime people asked me to do something, I said yes, but it was like, you know what? You are really you're jumping out of the plane here. And it wasn't until I left. I remember I walked into the building. And when I gave my notice, and Ian had said, "Hey, just do what you've been doing. We got you." And I said, "I can't even sing," because I had just come back from vacation, and I had my first Botox injection to my throat. And what that does, it stabilizes it, And so, and also medicinal marijuana stabilizes the tremors that was happening. So, and it's CBD, and basically. I I was so devastated that I couldn't even cry. I had no more tears left to cry.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But I just knew this can't be it. This can't be it. I worked so hard. I've been practicing meditation, spirituality, and I thought that this was going to be my quote unquote time. And I realized that it still was, because I had to actually then go back home, and I took a hike, and then I wrote a Facebook post, because, you know, around me it was, you don't need to say anything, you know, just let it, because everyone kept saying you're going to get your voice back, you know, my friends and family, but the doctors were like, no, you're not.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, they're like, no, you're not. Do not believe that. And so I was so kind of this, you know, and I met some amazing people in dystonia support groups, and went to several support groups, and really just, I was leaning into what I thought my life was going to be, and I had to let go. So it was extremely difficult. And to then see and watch so many of my dear friends thriving, and I had to hold it up, because it said, well, don't go the other way and get into the energy of animosity and all of that, which again, you have to find that balance, you know. But I was then begin to overcompensate, right? And going, I love everybody, I love everybody, I love everybody, even though I did, but it was like the grief of losing. And my dad was dying at the same time. I found that out in 2015 when we were in Seattle, 2 days before Tech, that he had stage 4 cancer. So all of that came into play. I get home. Yes.
No, keep going.
Well,
This
I
is
get
just
home.
fascinating to me.
Well, it's interesting. You know, I get home and I have a great therapist. You know, I have a new therapist now, but in Portland, a really wonderful therapist who I had been with for like that time since 2012. Because sidebar, my husband, and this is why I believe we're still together after 9 years, is because he said, babe, you know, this was in 2011. Why don't we do therapy together? No one had ever said that to me before. And my idea of therapy was my therapist falling asleep on me. You know, the 2 times I went, I didn't know how to do therapy. I just kept, you know, and I thought, and then prescribing medicine, it's like, this isn't. And this was the first time where, oh, this is how you do it. And I was in Portland learning about love, learning how to love myself, and therefore really, really understanding the scope of what love is. So a lot of healing took place, but I thought, well, I've done all my healing, baby. I get home and Chris was at work, you know, and we then started EMDR therapy, which EMDR therapy, it takes you all the way back to your first point of trauma. He didn't know I had all mixed traumas. So I had to go all the way back to, oh my gosh, to when I was 4 years old, and in a car watching my mother try to drive us off the bridge, and them just getting into this ferocious fight. So that was the first trauma point that wasn't healed, you know. And it's interesting because I can share these stories now without even a blip of, just because of the healing. But when I had to first share it, it was just, you know, and I had to look back at my entire life. I didn't have to, I wanted to. No other reason except my heart was calling it. I think I called so many people in my life, you know, and I was like, what are you talking about? But I just want you to know, you know. And it was this clearing that began to happen, you know, and it was, I started standing differently. You know, I started seeing myself differently and not shaming my past self, right? Not going, oh, well, you should have been in the closet. No, it was, you lived your life that you lived, and now you're living your life now with so much purpose. And man, it was, I learned so much about strength And I leaned into Pema Chodron and listen. I literally listened to Don't Bite the Hook like every single day. That was my soundtrack, you know. And Thich Nhat Hanh on radical compassion, radical self acceptance, all of it, radical allowance.
And don't worry, we're going to drop all these names into into the thing later.
Oh, great.
Keep going, Rodney. Keep
But
going.
the beauty is that I forgave myself.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, I was able to forgive myself and then allow myself to forgive the roots, my biological mother and my biological father. In that time, I was able to forgive them and know that they loved my brother and I at the best of their capabilities at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do not hold them to those 20-something-year-olds who didn't know what the hell they were doing, you know. And a month before my father died, this was in January. So this was January, 2 months before he died. I was at his house, and this was the last time that I saw him up, you know, trying to be there. And he was a brilliant artist, but he never put his artwork out there because he was afraid. And what we found after he passed was he was paranoid schizophrenic. And that is something that I thought I was going to have my entire life because my mother has mental issues as well. So I thought, oh my gosh, you know, and my brother, I love my brother so much. He lives with schizophrenia. So I literally for so long thought, when is it going to catch up to me? Because I could at times, because I was in a fight or flight mode for my whole life, even though I was smiling, one little thing could set me off at those times. And I would go from 0 to 100, not knowing that that's all trauma, right? Yeah. So when all of that got fixed, you can't be anything there's no way you can be who you were. No way. You literally are reborn. So I asked my father, I said, Dad, I need to know this. What is the house that Robin and I were taken to when I was 5 years old and I was in kindergarten? My brother, he's 4 years older than me. He was 9. And our mother had taken us, and out of school, she didn't have, custody at all. Right. And my family on my dad's side didn't know where we were for, I don't know the period of time, but it was a long while. And many horrible things happened to us that I do not wish on anyone. But I had to forgive that. Like there was so much that, and so he didn't tell me the address. He said Rosalind Street, because he couldn't even bring it out of himself, because I knew it carried so much pain that he had held for all those years.
You could see that in him.
Oh, Jerry, yeah, you can see it in his work, you know, as well. But his paintings were just gorgeous, right? And he was a cop as well, so he carried all of that, all of the racism that went on, but he didn't bring it into our house, actually. You know, I mean, there was a lot of physical abuse there, but he did not say, hate this group of people.
Right.
And I thank him every day for that. You know what I'm saying? He could have, but he said, no, it's individual. It is not a whole. So long story short, I got in my car, my rent-a-car, and I said, I'll see you all tomorrow. I got in the car. I had my Deepak Chopra on. I had my prayer beads, and I drove to East Oak Lane. I hadn't been to East Oak Lane since then. And I found my way. I said, okay, inner child, I'm going to let you, you have the eyes, and I'm going to follow the heart here. And I found the place. And it's interesting because the place had always been in my dreams, in nightmares for years, many, many years. And I found it. It was this one-way street where cars were always double parked, and someone would go, I'll be right back. You know,
right.
You're waiting in the car forever. It was that kind of block. And I knew, I said, I'll find it when I see it. The entire block was regentrified, except that house. Oh, wow. That house had boards up on the upstairs window, upstairs bedroom window, where a lot of stuff took place, and then down in the basement where a lot of stuff boarded up. I got out of the car. There was not enough sage in the world that would make me go up those steps.
Right.
And I stood on the sidewalk. And when I said, I took a deep breath and I said, I release you. You have no power over me anymore. And it was almost as if everything stopped and paused. And I understood why I had made a career of playing all of these tortured characters in a way, right? Until you get to Bob and come from away, who was, but it was just, there was a simplicity about him.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there, I stood on that sidewalk, and I just said, I release you. And then I drove back around the block and came back again and got out just to make sure. And I didn't want to take a picture because I said, I don't want to infect my camera. I just said, I see it. And I felt proud because I knew that it was real. All of a sudden, it all became real to me. And I guess I share this because, you know, outside of being gay and all of it, you know, there was this underlying thing of who's going to love me after knowing all that I've been through and come through. Who's going to love me, or who's going to accept me, or all these things. And it was in that time period of healing, of God saying, Job, sit down. You know, of really going, who are you now? And my dad died. I went to go visit him in the hospice. And before that month, the last thing he said after Rosalind, he said, I love you, son. I had been waiting for that my entire life. Those 3 words. Well, really 4. I love you, son.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I had been waiting for him to say that my entire life up until that point. And I was good. I shared with him what I felt, and I wasn't expecting an apology or any of that stuff. And he apologized. And his funeral, you know, before his funeral, he died. I woke up, I could talk. And then I sang at his funeral. I had no idea how that came out of my mouth. You know, I just don't. And I sang with my cousins because we used to always sing together, you know, and we did his poetry. And it was peaceful. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I loved this man. And I all the negative energy that I felt for him and trying to like hide above it, rise above it, like my whole life of going, I love my dad, you know, I really loved him. And I said, I see you and I love you. You did the best you could. And I actually watched his evolution as well, because he grew, you know, and I watched his growth. I watched him go from having 30 girlfriends growing up and having a lie for all of them, you know, and it's like, and the torture of that, you know, to settling down, you know, the best he could, you know, and it was no longer, I'm never going to be like my dad, you know, it was, my dad was his own man. And now I get to be my own man. Because all I wanted to do was please him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, of course.
So it's. Yeah,
Rodney, you know, you say your dad watched your evolution. You've watched his. I've watched yours, and I really appreciate how generous you are with your journey and your stories, and I know that. I know that there's something that you always keep for yourself. So I certainly want you to just sort of like envision that and not share it, because that's for you.
Oh yeah.
And for you and for Chris, your husband.
That's why I have a life coach now.
Yeah. No, I really mean this, because I know you've heard me say it in rehearsal that we are privileged to hear these stories. We have no right to them, and so I really do believe that they are gifts, and I thank you for that, because We, as young people, we start out as we are mostly the learner and the student of things. And
Yes.
I've watched you grow into quite an impactful man and teacher and healer. And I couldn't be prouder to call you my friend
Mm,
and colleague.
that means the world to me. Thank you.
And it means the world
Likewise.
to me. And because all of these things, bravery, inspiration, faith, these are all things that we all so desperately need, even in the best of times.
Even in
And
the
we are
best of times.
certainly not there. So I wanted to share with everyone the fact that you and I talk about the fact that, and I think you are the perfect person to talk to the viewers about this, that you and I talk about the fact that just the very act of us walking down the street, living in the skin we are in, can be a deadly action
Yeah.
for us.
Yes.
And how a person like Rodney Hicks, I know it's a lot of the work, but I just want you to just share why, and I know it's also the love that you share with Chris that gives you that, and all the letting go. I want you to share just a little bit of something we might not know about how we get up and we walk down the street and we don't harbor that hatred and that animosity and that negativity. And I know part of it is something we haven't gotten to is your writing, but um, there's something in that deep in your core that allows you to do that. And I just wanted you to share a little bit of that with our viewers. You shared a lot of it, but I think there might be something else too.
Yes. Really tapping into finding a plan that works for you, a routine. For me, it is before I go to sleep at night, my prayer is simple. It is thank you. I go to sleep. And then Chris and I, we recite this. Unexpected doors fly open. Unexpected channels are free. Endless avalanches of abundance are now poured out over me, over Chris, and we say all of our friends and people who are suffering in this world. May it lift and grace it in perfect ways. Amen. And that's our joint prayer together. And the first words that I say when I wake up is thank you. And I take a shower and I then go downstairs and I get up around 5:30 and in the morning and I do qigong, which is like tai chi, all of that. It moves all of
Hmm.
the internal organs and to keep them flowing. Yoga, and then I meditate, and that, and I walk my dog. You know, Logan, we can't walk her right now because she has a cone, but walk our
Uh-oh. Was she
dogs.
bad? Was she misbehaved or was something?
No, she had two lumps on her, and they took them off,
Hmm.
and so she had stitches, but they're benign, so it's
Hmm.
great. But
Does she know what's going on with that cone?
you know what? Miss Logan is many things in the best way possible. She is so always happy.
Mm-hmm.
So even with the big cone and like her just kind of not knowing how to get up the stairs anymore, and like we hear her coming because she's scooping up on the stairs. But I really believe that it is finding a practice that works for you, that really, and it's not about anyone else, letting any energies in and reading as much as you can, but really, and I also believe in crystals, you know, and crystal energy healing. You know, anyone who knows me now in my life knows that Rodney always has a crystal with him. You know, and if you didn't know, you know that now,
Hmm.
because I believe crystals hold power, and they also bring a gentleness. But you know, you're not perfect because that's not what life is about. Life is about being human. So there are days, you know, especially this summer with everything going on in our
Hmm.
world,
Hmm.
where I allowed myself to really go, well, what is this energy? And then I was like, okay, see what that energy is. I'm good here. You know, I'm unapologetically good here.
Mm.
And then when Breonna Taylor's when all of that came out, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing all in the same week, it was all of a sudden I tiptoed into the pool of anger and sadness, and all of a sudden, like, things that aren't even on my mind, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, came up. And I posted it, and I deleted it because, it was the opposite of felt cute, delete later, It
Yes.
was I felt angry, delete later. And because it was just so misplaced.
Hmm.
And I just thought, that's not where I'm living. That Brene Brown says it best. Lead with your heart, not with your hurt.
Mm.
And that's a lot to unpack. And so no one told me to delete. I prayed on it in a way of just sitting and being,
Hmm.
meaning. And I was listening to Michael Beckwith, and then I just said, ew, delete that. Yes, because it doesn't serve you.
Mm.
For me personally, everyone has their own ministry. I really believe that. And I'm the last person to judge anybody and to think, well, we should be this way. No.
Hmm.
It's everyone has a place in this world, and everyone has a specific gift and voice that has been given to them. And if that voice is then so be it. What I've learned is I've already experienced that energy. So I know the uncomfortability of it. And and so this, I love breathing,
Mm.
and really standing in my authentic core of being. No matter how messy it is and all of
Mhm.
that, it's at the end of the day, my husband and I, we celebrated our 7-year anniversary, and we went to
Oh,
Vail.
congratulations.
Thank you. We went to, I mean, you and Mario are like,
Yeah, we just
oh,
celebrated 9 years on Monday. Well,
yes, honey.
nine legal years.
9 legal years, right? But but y'all, it's like you look at those relationships, and it's like, yes, oh my gosh. And so we were in Vail, and the smoke was really bad because of the fires.
Hmm.
We did not leave the condo for 2 days. We had such a great time.
Oh, that sounds
It's
like heaven.
well, it's great when you're with someone who you want to be with and is your best friend. And it's like, and I love everybody. I love being around people now because I used to be afraid of people. And
Hmm.
that's why a lot of times they're like, where's Rodney? I don't know, because to, I was afraid to be myself, really, and I was like, oh, I don't want to like get into the energy of these people. And like, so there was a big fine tuning that happened in my life. It was a big tune up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. We're good. We're going to go forward, and forward with this energy of love.
Oh, Ronnie, it's been, of course, great spending time with you here, but it's also been just great to watch you come into your own, and and I have enjoyed. There are other words for it too, but I've enjoyed this hour that we spent, and we didn't
Likewise.
get to some things that I would love for you to come back and talk about because I want to talk
Yes.
about the catalyst of your writing, what that means for you. It, I know it's healing for you because it's healing for me to read your writing. And I
I love
thought you,
writing because
I
I'm laughing every time I'm writing, even though it's dark stuff. A lot of my
yes,
writing.
but we also talked about the fact that you started writing something in trauma, and now you want to get past that and talk about the conquering of all those things. So
Yes.
I just have to have you back. I said this
Oh,
was a
please.
part tour, but this is going to be a part three. So
Ah.
we're going to do part two with Keiko Green and Lamar Legend next week. Part two, we tell the story, and then I'm gonna have a couple of episodes after that, and I'm gonna bring you back for part three. We tell the story,
And
so we can
let's
talk
talk
about
about
your
Flames
stories
Over
that
the
you
Ugly
are
Play.
actually writing.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
I didn't want to rush you because Rodney, it really is a privilege for us to hear these stories, especially when they're given in such generosity, and you have done that for us tonight, and I really really
Thank you.
appreciate that. I
I
really
hope it can
truly
help
do.
someone, especially young people coming up into our industry, this beautifully, really changing industry.
Hmm.
And, because here's the thing, my trauma started way before I got to New York City.
Hmm.
New York City actually was like, we accept you,
Yeah.
we see you, but I had a lot of growing to do. And it wasn't until I moved out of New York City to really go, who am I?
Oh, that's awesome. And we didn't even have time to talk about some of the organizations you might support, but
Yeah,
people will definitely be able to find them on the
great,
website.
great.
Because I just want to have time to say goodnight to you. And Rodney,
I
thank you.
donate a little too much, but
No, no, no,
I
no,
love it.
no, 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 no,
I
no,
love it.
no. Believe me, this is why we're here.
Mm,
We're not. We can find our credits in our bios and our resumes. We can find all that stuff elsewhere.
yes,
This is why we're here doing this thing.
I
We're here to
appreciate
connect and talk. And I just think that I know that it's special. It's special for me, so I know it's special
it. Mm,
for our viewers to just listen to you and you can really hear your heart, Rodney. You really
thank
can.
you. I
You.
think just be yourself because everybody else is already taken.
Oh, okay. Good. Good. All right. Yes, got it.
You know what I mean? I mean,
I
that
do know
to me
what
was
you
my
mean.
biggest takeaway. Be yourself, man.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to leave it
Thank you,
there. And
Jerry.
like I said, next week we've got Keiko Green and Lamar Legend to continue We Tell the Story Part 2. And yeah, I want to thank Village Theater, Kevin Vortman, our support, and the incredible artistic team that works with me all day and all week and all month. We really appreciate you. And thanks again to Rodney Hicks.